Thank
you.
Yeah,
we're live.
All right.
We are live.
We are live as we're talking about how fabulous Michelle Kinney looks in this wonderful green.
Why, thank you.
Welcome, everybody, to Lunch with Lincoln. I am happily sitting in for Reed Galen this week while Reed is out traveling on behalf of Lincoln Project. And I'm excited to introduce everyone to Michelle, who is one of our most important staffers. Everybody's important, but Michelle has her hands in so many different things. And most importantly, she has her hands in the creative side, the wonderful ads that you see and the rapid responses. Michelle has a role in that as one of our creative directors. And she also is wonderful assistant to me and Rick Wilson. We wouldn't be able to function on a day-to-day basis without Michelle. So we're grateful to her for that. So she's a woman of many hats. And Michelle, welcome to Lunch with Lincoln. And I'm glad we get to hang out for a little bit and hang out with our Lincoln Project brethren.
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be here. I found out yesterday, so I'm all set. I'm good to go. It's Friday, TGIF.
That's right. That's right. We're just going to roll with that. We're a lot more relaxed here on Lunch with Lincoln.
Absolutely.
It could be a 2-martini lunch if we wanted it to be, but I figured that, we don't want to get too crazy without Reed.
No.
We'll leave that up to him next time if he wants to introduce the 2-martini lunch with Lincoln. Oh my goodness. Well, Michelle, I want people to get to know you. I know you, and I think it's important for the masses to start to see that the Lincoln Project is so much bigger than just the folks that they see, like me and Rick and Steve and Reed. Those of us that are on LPTV or those of us that do cable news. Like the Lincoln Project is made up of amazing staffers, like yourself. And I know that Ryan was on, I think, last week as well. So folks got a chance to see Ryan, and she's our communications director. So explain to the world how you came to us at the Lincoln Project. What's your name? Where you're from? Tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, well, I'll try to give you the abridged version. So my background is a little bit different than a lot of the other staff members at the Lincoln Project. I grew up in upstate New York, in the 21st Congressional District. I grew up there and I went to school at Syracuse University. I was a theater major. So I spent all my time in college studying theater and theater history and musical theater and singing and dancing and all that. But of course, spent all of my extra time at SU taking political science classes. So it was always in the back of my mind as something that I was interested in and something that I maybe wanted to pursue at some point. So I moved to New York. I was an actor and a backup singer for 10 years.
Tell them who you were a backup singer for. I wanted to pull the video. For those of us who are 80s babies, we are.
I did have a moment singing backup for Debbie Gibson, which was definitely one of those moments. It was when she was being called Deborah. So we all had to, call her Deborah, which was,
a little later.
I think it was a little bit later. I don't even remember what year it was actually, but that was awesome. I did sing backup for Darlene Love a few times, if you know who she is. For a couple years, I sang backup for a woman named Lala Brooks. She was the lead singer of the Crystals, who sang Did You Run Run and all that stuff. So I had quite the journey as a backup singer. It was a lot of fun. Met a lot of great, interesting people. So I did end up quitting the business about 10 years after I started. Took some time to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. So I worked at a hedge fund for 2 years. And in that time started a photography business in New York. And I had my own photo studio. I worked out of my apartment, but I also did a lot of photojournalism as well. So I had clients. I worked for Vice a few times. I worked for Out Magazine. What was the last thing I shot? A book cover for Audible was one of the last things I did before the pandemic. So of course, when the pandemic hit, zip, right? Like no work. So I was kind of sitting around wondering what I was going to do. And a friend of mine was working for the Lincoln Project, someone who I had met through volunteering through Democratic politics here in Manhattan, which I'd been doing for several years prior. And he said, hey, we're looking for interns in the communications team. And I said, I'm free. I'm not doing anything. So that's how I started. I started a little over a year ago at the Lincoln Project as an intern. And I spent the majority of my time during the election as a national press assistant. And then it was after January 6th, actually, I think was my first day into my new role working with Rick. And then it just kind of evolved into this role in creative, which has just been a dream come true.
What a story of working your way up, right? I mean, literally started as an intern and worked your way up to working with Rick and the creative team and the guys that put together the ads and come up with the concepts, and you help usher that through and you lend a voice to some of what they do, which is really great, because I think the more voices that we have that contribute to those ads and what we produce, the better. And that's why a lot of what the Lincoln Project puts out is so impactful, because it does have input from different perspectives, which I think makes it a lot of what we put out relatable. You said that you not only are you into musical theater, which is something that we bonded on early, because my mom, as those of you who follow me or watch the breakdown, I talk often about my mom and how she grew up in the business, and she did Broadway and musical theater, and she was a dancer, and she did national company shows and all kinds of really cool things. So I grew up in the arts and in theater, and it's a very, very important part of my life. And that's how I decompress with a lot of things. I decompress with sports and with travel and with musical theater.
And with Tiki.
And with the Tiki. Yes, the teacher is here. He's co-hosting Lunch with Lincoln. We got a little Tiki tale happening. He's around. He's my co-host today, as usual. What we've talked about some of our favorite shows. What is your favorite musical theater show ever? Production.
Ever?
Yeah.
Production? Oh gosh,
yeah.
Production
and show, because it matters.
Production. Oh no, I was not prepared.
Oh, come on.
There's just so many to choose from.
So pick a couple then. You don't have to pick one.
I mean, can it be a play? Can it be a play?
Sure.
Okay. I will tell you the most impactful moment of 2 hours of theater I've ever sat through was, I wish I could tell you the year, maybe it was 2012, was Normal Heart on Broadway. And it was a story about the AIDS crisis in the 80s. And it ended up winning Best Play that year. I think it was like 2011 or 12. But it was, when I tell you, I walked out of that theater a different person. And that's the great thing about theater, I think, is, you as a human being, you can't possibly experience all the things in the world, right? So you walk into a theater and you experience a live production with actual human beings, putting on a production to tell you a story and to teach you something about the world. And I think it's especially after, what we're going through with the pandemic now.
Right.
Similarly, there were people that were screaming out for help, and not everyone was listening. And so, they were watching their friends die, and especially here in New York. And there was this moment at the end of the play where they did projections of all the names of people who had died. And it was just, it was one of the most extraordinary moments of theater I have ever sat through.
Definitely parallels to what we're going through with COVID, right? I mean,
big time.
It's, however, so many people were impacted by that. And the fact that we were in the middle of a consequential presidential election,
right.
Which literally was like the crossroads of our democracy at stake. Literally, people were dying. I mean,
yes.
I don't know that we've all had the time to process like what
certainly
we've
not
been through over the last couple of years here in this country, and particularly how it's impacted New York. You're in New York City. I'm a proud Jersey girl from right over the bridge and love New York.
We like our Jersey. We love our Jersey brethren.
Yes. I mean, I was born in Queens, but I'm a Jersey girl. My whole family is from Jersey. And so, but my husband's from Brooklyn. So I get to, to claim the best of both worlds. But, the loss of theater, like when I saw the impact, when we started to realize the seriousness of COVID and basketball games, the NBA season was canceled. And, I was up at Harvard and our semester was cut short and we had to evacuate. But when I saw that Times Square and Broadway was shut down, that hit me a little bit different. And it became real, right?
Devastating.
It did. And we have you talked about being a photographer. You took some photos documenting what was going on at the time that I think that we have that we can show. And as they put them up, you can narrate them. Tell us what we're
Sure.
seeing.
So,
There we go.
so this is what the first two pictures, the subway and the next one, are from the day of the lockdown. This is around like March 18th, I believe. And yeah, and this, I walked up to Harlem and the Apollo Theater had the Be Well in huge letters, as you can see there. It's just daunting to be there. And then this is a couple months later in May when things started to get a little bit better, but we're still obviously, if you've never been to New York,
that's Grand Central Station, right?
Right. Grand Central Station is usually like, you know, hundreds of people running around, rushing around. And I walked in there and there was nothing. And same with Times Square too. I mean, it's, as a New Yorker, you know, Times Square is one of those places that you avoid because there's so many people. But
it's the lifeblood. You know, it's the lifeblood of Manhattan. When people think of Manhattan, they think of the hustle bustle of Times Square, all the way back to you know, movies and depictions of New York. It's Times Square. To sort of see it empty that is just,
it's the heartbeat of the city in so many ways. And I know a lot of people say it's the crossroads of the world. It's where everything is happening. And just it was eerie. It was borderline scary, like this. You know, this picture here.
It looks like an apocalypse movie. You know, we see that in apocalypse movies.
That's right. That's right. So, and actually the naked cowboy was still walking around.
Oh my God.
Which, you know what? The naked cowboy had Trump stickers all over his guitar. And I was like, are you kidding me? It was, you know, but that was in May, and he's since, I think, taken them off.
Well, I would hope that he would recognize that that's probably not a good advertisement for him, considering Trump's role in why New York was shut down. Those are unbelievable photographs. And, you know, it was by happenstance that I saw that because you don't, you know, you're so humble and you don't talk about your accomplishments unless someone asks you. You have to like draw them out of you. And I was like,
I know.
Like, Michelle is an incredible photographer. These are amazing.
Thank you.
And so I wanted to give people a chance to see what you did. And plus it tells us a story about real life.
It does.
You're not off the hook. Your favorite musical, and then we're going to talk Lincoln Project ads.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, favorite musical would be Oklahoma.
Yes.
Oklahoma, hands down. Hands down. Again, tells a story that I think is often overlooked, you know, about the human experience and the darkness that behind the happiness is. If you really go and see, I mean, I saw Shuler Hensley do it in 2003 on Broadway, and it was, again, one of the most moving performances of Judd that I've ever seen. And it's beautiful, and it never gets the love that it deserves.
What did you think about the revamp of it? You know,
the one the circle in the square. I actually didn't get to see that. I didn't see it.
I haven't seen it either.
Great.
And I'm maybe because I'm a traditionalist with these things, sometimes I'm like, don't mess around with it. But Oklahoma is one of the greatest musicals ever. I have the original an album with the original cast. Recording, which from my grandparents' house, so it's like legit.
Wow.
Yeah. And but my favorite Oklahoma performance was with Hugh Jackman. And for those who don't know, Hugh Jackman was in Oklahoma in the West End in London back in the late 90s, which was one of his breakout performances. People had no idea that he was actually a musical theater guy. I didn't either. He was Wolverine to me. And when I found that out, I was like, oh my God. So I've had a love affair in my mind with Hugh Jackman ever since. I saw him perform live at the here in DC. He did like a one-man show, which is phenomenal. And he's now back, Michelle. I don't know if you saw, but he's doing Music Man, which was put on hold because of COVID, and it's back on. And I cannot wait to go back into musical theater and into the Broadway and watch Hugh Jackman in Music Man.
Yeah, so we welcome you back. We welcome everyone back to New York.
Thank you.
Get vaccinated. Come back.
I am vaccinated. If you guys aren't vaccinated, get vaccinated so you can enjoy life's pleasures once again, out and about. All right, let's talk a little Lincoln Project ad stuff. So what I asked you to pick out a couple of your favorites so you could talk a little bit about them and why. So let's start with the first one. This one, you mentioned that you grew up in upstate New York in the 21st Congressional District. There's a certain villain of the Lincoln Project that represents that district up there. And tell us about who that is.
Well, that would be Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. So we have a rapid response video that I want to show. Some of you watching may have seen it already, but this was one of those moments that I said, you know, we really need to highlight the fact that this young woman does not believe in anything, that she says one thing and does another, and will do anything to climb the ladder of power in the Republican Party. And so we can go ahead and show this now if we're ready.
Uniter and a bridge builder.
I bring, I hope, a sunny side of optimism to Congress and a willingness to work with people.
On the Muslim ban, she stated at the time, this is not who we are as a country.
I ran for Congress to bring new ideas, fresh energy, and a new generation of leadership to Washington.
On the border wall, she stated, I don't think that's realistic.
I'm proud of the positive, issues-oriented race we have run from day one.
And when Trump was caught on that Access Hollywood tape, she stated at the time, Donald Trump's inappropriate, offensive comments are just wrong. So that was then. This is now.
I am honored to support President Trump.
There was no constitutional basis for impeachment.
She has sold her soul. I can't work with people that are that just craven and soulless.
I plan to object to certain contested electors on January 6th.
Look at Elise Stefanik, someone who started out as a reasonable person, and now she's on Steve Bannon's show.
I fully support the audit in Arizona.
Was she full of crap then, or is she full of crap now? Either way, crap is crap. And it is the best reflection of where the GOP is right now, is they are about to knock out a principled woman for crap. Donald Trump brought the gold toilet into the RNC, and everyone thinks it's a pool. And they're just...
Oh my God.
I love Michael Steele.
Michael Steele. He is just too funny, man. He is too much. Too much. Yes. So Elise Stefanik and that rapid response calling her out for her just contradictory, hypocritical BS just to get ahead. It's when you put it side by side, it's just like,
I mean, it's staggering. Listen, I mean, I gotta be real honest. I was never a huge fan of hers to begin with, but in the last 4 to 5 years, it is outrageous.
Yeah.
The 180 she has done when it comes to Trump. It's just, and she's smart. She's very, very smart. And she's a very, very talented politician. That's right. That's right. So she knows exactly what it is that she's doing, and she doesn't care.
She's up there with the Kevin McCarthy. Well, he's not that smart, but knowing how to change his stripes. He's not. He's a dunce. Him and Devin Nunes. I don't know what's in the water out there in California with those Republicans, but but he knew what to do to be a social climber through the political ranks, and he changed his stripes too. He knows that Trump is a moron and bad for the country, but it doesn't matter. He's trying to protect his own skin. She made a calculation in 2019. Because she was an up-and-comer. People thought, oh, she's the future of the Republican Party. We need more women like that. That's great. And then in 2019, she decided to become this rabid bitch going after Trump, going after folks that were during Trump's impeachment. I mean, I was like, what is wrong with her? That's crazy. I couldn't believe it. Her behavior during the first impeachment. And that was the beginning of the slippery slope into Trumpville for her. And now it's paid off for her, depending on how you look at it. She's now number 3 ranking Republican in Congress, but also a laughing stock to anyone who pays attention. So
that's right.
You make your choices and you make your bed, you lie in it. And I think she will come up with lots of fleas. What's the next one? We have another one.
So there's another ad called One Day that I love it so much. Because so during the campaign, most of the team was out in Park City, but I was here. And a big part of my job was getting up on East Coast time, really early, 6 o'clock, and teeing up our press releases and linking our ads into the press release to send them out in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so I got this ad the night before. Now, this was the night before the election day that I got the ad and the email, and I just sat there, and first of all, I heard the voice, And I said, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I think we were just all so tired, not just from the election itself, but the last 4 years. And to know that everything was coming to this pinnacle, this moment where things were either going to change for good or things were going to change for worse.
So
and
true.
It was overwhelming. It was an overwhelming. And my husband, I remember, walked in and was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "It's just so beautiful." But it's just such a beautiful ad, and I think it really speaks to the soul of all the everything that we were working towards.
Tell people who the voice is.
Oh, that would be Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
President Josiah Bartlett.
For the West Wing fans out there.
Yes.
All right, let's run one day.
Good morning. Today is the first day of the rest of America's life. One day. One day that will, one way or another, change how this country feels about itself. One last push to get the train back on its tracks. One day that cannot wipe out the last 9 months or the last 4 years, but can clear a path for 1,000 better days ahead. One day, America on a tightrope. One day when the entire world is watching, like a parent in the stands, peeking through their fingers. Come on, America, come on. One day that will now play itself out right in front of our eyes, hour by hour, vote by vote, with history on its shoulders. One day that will change our lives forever. It is November 3rd, 2020, America. We have one day.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
That still gives me goosebumps.
Isn't it
Still
just?
gives me goosebumps. And there were a handful of ads that Lincoln Project put out.
Oh yeah,
like that. That just make you really just focus in and listen intently, and just
that's right.
It forces you to focus on the moment. And I don't know that. I think that's something that's unique for some of what Lincoln Project puts out. There aren't many other groups that have the ability to capture the viewer the way our ads do.
Right. And we told a story in so many different ways. There's 4 different reasons we make videos. So one is to set a narrative. Another is an audience of one. So most of the time that's Donald Trump. Another is to target for election and geographically. We did a lot of state spots during the election. And then our last is rapid response, which we contribute to the news cycle. But sometimes they're all of the above. Sometimes they're one. Sometimes they're two. Two checks, checking of the boxes. So an ad like that, which was produced by Joey, who's just so talented. It's one of those. It draws you in. You lean forward, and you, like you said, you're forced to listen.
Yep.
And that ad, I know when you'd ask me, hey, think about some of your favorite ads. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I could choose. There's so many, that did so many different things. But that certainly stood out to me, and also it was like kind of the beginning of the next chapter for us in a lot of ways.
Yes, because a lot of folks didn't know. All right, well, the election's over. Now what? Is there still a role? Does Lincoln Project still exist? Because most super PACs, your end date is the day of the election, and that's it. But this, as Reed Galen often says, they started a super PAC and a movement showed up, and it really became a movement with millions of people looking to, okay, what now? What? We were able to. There was a split decision, as Stuart Stevens says. We might have gotten rid of Trump, but Trumpism is alive and well. And that it became clear to all of us involved with Lincoln Project that it needed to continue, because the malignancy of Trumpism, as I say, was metastasizing in such a way that there was no way that we could just walk away and take a step back and go, all right, well, our work here is done. Have fun, Biden. Good luck. There was no way.
That's right. And I think it became even more glaringly obvious after January 6th. And now where we are now is we have one political party, which most of its members don't even want to admit what actually happened. And they don't want to talk about who was responsible. And so I think that really puts us in a very dangerous place as a country, and the health of our democracy as well. So that's why the last ad that I want to show is called The Line, and that's kind of a big picture narrative setting ad, and it really illustrates how toxic and dangerous and authoritarian the Trumpism movement has become, and how it really is the modern GOP. So I think it's scary. It's a scary ad, but honestly, I think a lot of us need to wake back up and be scared, because we're in very serious, dangerous place.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's play it. The Line.
Know why what happened in Myanmar can't happen here.
No reason. I mean, it should happen here. No reason. Right? That's right.
America has crossed a line. The Republican Party believes in ending the American experiment, led by a man obsessed with power and money, who will say and do anything to seize control again.
This election was rigged.
To punish those who oppose him. His followers don't just disagree with us. They've got something worse in mind. We know what national populism and authoritarianism lead to. Every time.
That's what this is all about.
That's why we will never compromise with this evil. We will never step back from the line, because we believe in America. Are you in this fight? Or have they already won?
And there it is.
There it is. I mean, it really encompasses all of the reasons why we continue to fight this fight, and why it's so important. For those who are, if you want to go back, you can see all of our Lincoln Project ads on our website, on the YouTube. But we have a follow-up, a sequel to that. That's out
right.
now. Talk a little bit about how that came about.
So the mission, it's funny, it just kind of showed up in my inbox, because I'm not always on the calls with talking strategy and things, because the guys do know they've got an idea and of what they want to do and how they're going to do it, and they just run with it. So I got this in my inbox, and it was just a script, and I texted Rick, and I was like, "What's up? Like, what is this?" And he said, "It's a sequel." And I read through the script, and I was like, "Oh shit, yes it is." So really, and I think what it does is it picks up where the line left off, and it makes very clear what our mission is, not only at the Lincoln Project, but as a country, where we should be going to hold people accountable and to stop Trumpism. And Trumpism means a lot of things, right? It's authoritarianism, it's white nationalism, and what we all need to do to get on board to make that happen. So. We can, I don't have that here, but you can go on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube and check it out.
I think it's pinned. I think it's pinned to our Twitter.
It is.
Should be.
That's right.
At least. But yeah, we debuted it on The Breakdown. For those who are watching, The Breakdown airs every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. live Eastern. And we oftentimes will debut the latest Lincoln Project ads on The Breakdown first, exclusively, before we put them up digitally. And ads like those, I see some people in the chat are like, "How come I've never seen this?" Well, sometimes we don't put all the ads on television, because as you can imagine, that's expensive. So it is very expensive, right? We pick and choose which ads we're going to put money behind to actually put on air. That was one of them. And so some of them, they're just digital, and you'd be surprised. I mean, when you get millions of views on Twitter or on YouTube, it gets noticed. Brian Williams, we thank him and those guys over at MSNBC. Oftentimes they'll show our ads too, which is called free advertising, which is wonderful. We'll take that. Thank you. It's earned media. But anyway, so that's where you can always see all of our ads online. And some states, some people were like, "Oh, I live in a blue state. Maybe that's why I didn't see it." That's possible, because we target the ads. Right. Possibly,
but right now, yes. So a lot of times, if it's something that we think the message will play, or we can get some mileage out of it by putting it on television, I'll put my head together with Reed, and we'll talk about, where do we want to run this? And usually right now, if we want Trump to see it, we can make sure that he sees it. We can geofence with a digital ad buy around Bedminster, where he's spending the summer. And, we have heard through the grapevine that sometimes he's coming into the city and going to Trump Tower. So we can geofence right around where he is there as well. But
we've done that. We've done that, right? And we did that in Mar-a-Lago too. We ran a couple of ads that were those targeted audiences of one,
Right.
It's part of our
Right.
psyops to get into Trump's head.
Yes. And so for this particular ad too, we did a cable buy in Bedminster, New Jersey. And I think we did like ESPN, Golf Channel, Fox News, Fox Business, I think. So, you know, we just, and this is another way that sometimes there's a crossover. So this is a narrative setting piece, but also it's an audience of one, because we want to make sure that he sees it too. So, you know, that's what we plan to do. And, you know, the next time we have an ad come up that we think he should see, we'll make sure he does.
Yes. And believe me, folks, he's watching. We are on their radar. They monitor what we do all the time because they fear the power of the Lincoln Project, because, not because of us, but because of all of you, because of all of the people who have supported what the Lincoln Project does and has allowed this to be a movement. They fear what we do because they know that we have an impact, and they know that our most powerful tool is the truth, which is something that is their kryptonite. It's telling the truth and exposing them and holding them accountable for all of their transgressions against our democracy. So for those in our chat, some people are asking, well, what can we do to fight Trumpism? You know, a lot of times we tell you that get involved in your local politics, pay attention to what's going on. If you have the ability to financially support the organizations that are doing things to help protect our democracy, do that. For some folks that see something that's happening in Texas or Georgia, but they may not live there, you can always donate to the organizations that are putting boots on the ground. You can continue to support us at the Lincoln Project. There's a lot of things that people can do in different ways. Continue to inform yourself, know what's going on. But most importantly, because the battle that we're fighting is not just at a national level, it also is at a state and local level. And we're seeing this every single day. And a lot of times the Republicans know that most people don't pay attention to what's happening at their state and local levels until it's too late, until it's already passed, or until it's, you know, the impact of what's gone on is happening while you weren't paying attention. So pay attention, start getting acquainted with who your local officials are, who your state and state legislator and state senators are, when your state is in session, you know, who's when they're redistricting, when they're voting on election bills, who your Secretary of State is, because they're the people that certify elections. You got to start, you know, being part of a successful democracy is taking on the responsibility as a citizen to do your part. So that's what you can do to combat Trumpism. Just do your part. Pay attention, get involved, and do your part. Even if it's on the smallest level, it makes a difference. Any parting words for our audience, Michelle, as we wrap it up?
I just want to thank you, Tara, so much for inviting me to come join you today.
Of course.
This has been so fun. And it's been a nice little, you know, cap to a great couple weeks. You know, Rick was here in New York last week, got to meet him for the first time, and hopefully sometime soon we can meet in person too. So
indeed, I'm sending you a virtual hug, Michelle. We will now that life is opening up a little bit, we will make that happen sooner than later. I appreciate you and all the great work that you're doing. Keep it up. And
likewise, Tara.
Grateful for all the rest of everyone that makes Lincoln Project happen every day. We say a big thank you to them, and a big thank you to all of you who continue to support us here at the Lincoln Project. I hope you had a little fun hanging out with us with Lunch with Lincoln. We got a little tiki time, little tiki cameo here on top of it all. So a great way to end the week and head into the weekend. So Michelle, thank you, and thank everybody.
Thank you, Tara.
And have a wonderful weekend, guys. We'll see you next week.